Hey everybody, it's Denny with Wise is True. Happy Sunday. It's sunny out here. We had a big rain. I think they call it the Pineapple Express. Came up from Hawaii and dumped like 3 inches of rain Friday and Saturday. But it's very nice now. It's partly cloudy. It's warming up a little bit. Um, Anthony came over the other day. I was on a conference call. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday morning. I was on a conference call with Carl and Brian and some of our volunteers. We actually had people all over the world. One was in UK and one was in Hanoi. So we were spread out all over the time zones. And anyway, Anthony showed up, and then I got to the door, and he left this black planter bucket on my porch. And then there's a big, huge gopher snake. I guess he found it when he was moving some stuff around on this property. And he thought something was wrong with it, but it's just cold, hibernating in the winter. They don't get very active, so he's fine. Stuck him in the aquarium that Manji's in, and just gonna let him hang out there until all this mowing. In this where we live, they do a lot of mowing for hay, so when that's done, I'll let him go. It's safer. So anyway, I want to give a shout out to Brian, one of the partners in Get Wisdom. Since I met Brian, he's shared some books from time to time. And we've read a lot of the same stuff and never really gave it much thought. And then over the last couple months, he's come up with some real zingers. Actually, he was reading one that I had bought and never read. I was gonna read it, and the reason I bought it is because I had read James Orrock's book, The Tryptamine Palace. It's about 5-MeO-DMT, the Sonoran Desert Frog. So anyway, I wanted to get this Jeremy Narby's book, which I got, but I never really read it. And Brian was reading it, and he was going on and on about it. And sure enough, he's like the rock star of book recommenders right now in my book. So I just started this, but I got other reading. The one I've been really plowing through is this one here, which I mentioned last week, and I'm almost done. Not too much left. And then Teresa and I are going to hook up later this month and do an interview. So it should be interesting. This is quite a read. Okay, almost done with this, and then I still got Niara's book. Still working on that. Okay, so last week was April Fool's Day and Easter. I think the last time that happened was in 1956, before I was even born. So a year before I was born. And so I took the Sunday off. I didn't have a live stream last Sunday, so things have been kind of collecting up. So today's going to be a little bit long. I apologize. You can always go away, come back, and watch this later if you want to enjoy your Sunday. And this is my blue water. Leave it out in the sun, so it's not beer. Delicious. It's just still water, and I stick it out in the sun. Anyway, okay, so we had really nice rain and got some sunshine now, a little bit of clouds, but I wanted to kind of like go through the MAP, what we've learned so far, the scenario as I see it right now. And I was just going to go through that because I think in a lot of the past when I talked about the MAP, I was kind of like nibbling around the edges a little bit, and this is kind of going more direct towards the picture as I see it, as it relates to what it is and what to do about it. So the MAP, which is an acronym for Mercenary Army Program, the forum on WIT is coming along nicely. We got about 14 participants on there. I think there's a few people from Canada, a few people from Australia, and then the rest I think are from the US. And we got 3 moderators. We got Mick Schreier, Kevin Trimmel, and Delina, who's from Canada, and she's dealing with some family issue right now. So she's been active on the forum yet, but she should be on there pretty soon. And there's about like 14 posts on there, a lot of interesting stuff. A couple people on there who've never really done anything like that on Facebook and stuff. So it's kind of like a little safe zone to get your stories out, get help. A couple people on there have already worked with Carl. A couple people are probably thinking about it. So anyway, I'm really happy the way that's going and the purpose it's serving. So So if I could be blunt about my interest in the MAP, or what is also known as the secret space program, the current estimate from various sources is that there's about 1 million humans involved in the various MAP or SSP programs, which is, for all practical purposes, one program instituted for the use, or excuse me, instituted by the ETs for the alien agenda, where they can use these humans to kill other humans. The ETs are, for the most part, unwilling to do this themselves, and there are many plausible reasons for that. That's almost a whole nother article or live stream. And it's also known from various sources that the plan is to reduce the human population drastically, and even in some accounts to the channeling we've done, one of the plans is to eliminate humans from the earth. So the Georgia Guidestones comes to mind among many other tragic situations for humans right now. The widespread toxins and nanotechnology in our food and environment, disease from weaponized electromagnetic devices, human trafficking, the modern medical system, which easily kills, I think most people in the United States are killed by the medical system. There were some statistics and studies that were used to bolster that claim as part of Carl's class that we took back in February. Then there's starvation, war, and the underreported and outright abductions by ETs that all contribute to this reduction. So it's already going on. I'm a little bit suspicious about the total worldwide population on Earth right now. I think my feeling is that it's not accurate. Just because of these kind of things that I'm mentioning right now. And from the William Tompkins channeling that we did back in November of 2017, there's an answer that's given to the following question. It's only a portion of the answer, but I thought it was kind of interesting because it kind of ties into what we're talking about here. And the question was, this is back in November of 2017 for Bill Tompkins, who had passed away, are there any positive secret space programs? In other words, are there any that are created and utilized for the sole purpose of protecting all humans here on Earth or off planet? And then this is part of the answer from Bill, the light being. As we said earlier, this is entirely disinformation. If there were an urgent need for this, it would be far better to bring it out in the open and enlist the help of the entire planet to stand behind it and share in the effort. This is not what took place. It was always kept as a deep, dark secret, and that was rationalized in various ways, but reinforced through mind control to make people accept the simplistic notion that even this year of the new century, humanity may not be ready to know the truth about extraterrestrials. So the manipulation is working, and the disinformation campaigns are working. This is simply candy for the holdouts among those entranced with the extraterrestrial existence and want to know more about it. This will be at long last their seeming prayers answered by a disclosure that shows that they were right all along to believe in an alien presence. And of course, always expecting there would be a beautiful outcome, that this would be a good thing, it would lead to great wonders and an advancement of humanity that would uplift everyone, and make life easier. Who would not want free energy, the availability to travel anywhere without restriction, with minimal cost, taking no direct energy directly from the earth, but from the ether? This is a dream beyond most human imaginings, down through history, and that could be yours tomorrow. The aliens will promise this, and they can deliver this as well. So that's part of the answer that Bill Tompkins gave to this question. It's easily another 3 or 4 paragraphs in addition to what I just read. Most, if not all, the humans involved in MAP were abducted and are mind controlled to varying degrees, and the overriding feature is that practically all of them do not even know that they are participants. This is astounding, but not so much for those of us who have studied mind control and the fantastic depth and effectiveness of mind control perpetrated on individual humans by other humans. And it's even more fantastic when you consider the ET and dark spirit applications of mind control on individuals and societies in their various human cultures at large, where it's even more diabolical and effective. So if this is true, and there's plenty of evidence suggesting that it is, then it stands to reason that healing those humans who are now aware of their abductions, the manipulations, and the participation in the MAP would be an important step in the right direction for humanity. So what we're talking about is for the people who've come to the realization by various means that they are participants. Healing them would be a very important thing, not only for them, but for fellow people that maybe are not yet aware, and then for humanity, ourselves, because if it's true that this is an army that's made for killing humans, then we could potentially be saving a lot of humans. So, but we need to get back to so what do you mean by healing? Okay, so this is what I wrote about that. Well, first we need to acknowledge that there's a right and a wrong in all of this. We might agree that it's not okay to kill other humans. And if that's what we agree on, then it is a moral argument, and it implicitly recognizes that human suffering is real. Healing would mean creating the conditions where a MAP abductee would no longer want to kill another human, or allow any control such that they would actually do it. The abductee would no longer be subject to the manipulations or mind control, whether it be from a human or an ET of any sort. The healing would be a recognition of their higher purpose and a better connection to their higher self and the divine realm. They would no longer be a killer of other humans. The healing would enable them to walk away from the mercenary army program completely without harm and with forgiveness. And an important factor of all of this is the healing of the perpetrators as well. And accordingly, the perpetrator would not have an interest in or be able to use the MAP abductee for nefarious purposes any longer. It's a win-win. That's how healing is defined here. Okay, and this is where things can get a little bit hard to imagine for many of us, because this isn't a battle in conventional terms. We've been conditioned to think of it as a war, weapons and all that kind of thing. But this is a battle where the weapon that is used is love, and thus forgiveness in its most powerful and purest sense. This is a healing that invokes the power of the divine realm in a partnership where human is the prime mover, so to speak. The human asks, knowing the problem more fully and without sugarcoating it, with an understanding and confidence that the divine realm can apply the solution as long as we confidently do our part. So it's a partnership. If some growing percentage of the MAP community is healed and empowered by their newfound freedom and awareness, then it's plausible that they could extend this to their fellow MAP abductees, and even greater numbers could lead to this mercenary army program simply disappearing. And with a good number of humans and ETs who manage all of them, they could be healed as well, even though they're rightly called the perpetrators. So the now old adage applies. If you want fewer victims, heal the perpetrators, which is something you probably heard being said here in the past. All beings involved are lifted up, and humanity can enjoy a greater measure of safety and sanity while they navigate ahead into a much better world. So this is possible and most likely very much needed if we survive as humans here on Earth. So we're either part of the problem or we're part of the solution. If you're fixed on the idea that our star brothers and sisters are organizing events behind the scenes, so something like the MAP will be dismantled miraculously of its own accord, or some white hat military contingent swoops in and takes them all out, well, it's easy to see that that's not really a solution at all, even though it might look like one for a short period of time. The core cause is left untouched, and the human is fairly taken out of the equation and retains his status as a pawn in the game. Your support of such notions puts you in the unenviable position of being part of the problem. On this planet, saying nothing is just as good as saying yes, or at least acquiescing, and you end up giving your power away to someone else's decisions. Try not to be that person. So, and before I move on, I want to say that I could be wrong about all this. That's a distinct possibility. But in the meantime, this makes the most sense to me and explains all that's going on now without leaving parts of the overall picture laying off to the side with no explanation. But the question remains, what do you think? So there was another question that came up about dreams in one of the recent private channelings that was done with Creator via Carl Mollison, and this is what we got. The issue of dreams is a good example as well. Thinking that these things are messages, that they are symbolic workings, and an opportunity to gain important insights and to receive divine messages and instructions and so on. let's see, turn the page. All that can be true, but the opposite can be true as well. It is more likely, in fact, that those having dreams are being informed by the spirit meddlers or extraterrestrial psychics than the divine realm. And the reason for this is not because the divine realm is uncaring. It is that we are not allowed to go in and manipulate people directly. We do use the dream state to convey ideas, concepts, possible choices, and elements of guidance and upliftment. So that was the answer we got from the question about dreams. It is also probably true that, and then this is me, back to Denny. It's also probably true that those who are truth seekers, healers, or public about their inquiries into the issues of ETs and exopolitics are especially targeted in their dream life so as to support the narratives about those things that do not threaten the alien agenda. I generally don't remember too many of my dreams, and that's probably a good thing. Everyone's safer that way. But seriously, I'm now going to be more curious about the ones that I do remember, and if they are, have something to do with the divine realm. So far, I don't see much of that. But one thing did happen recently that I want to tell you about. I went to bed the other night, and I knew the next morning I wanted to do a Lightworker healing protocol session, but I didn't know who I wanted to do it on. I didn't know whether it was, I wanted to do a spirit rescue or whatever. So I just went to bed, and I thought, well, when I wake up, I'll know. I'll just the name will come to me, and I'll know who to do it on. And sure enough, when I woke up, the first thing that came into my mind was the name of a friend of my wife's who has a life-threatening illness. And that's probably not really a dream, but I feel like it was divinely inspired, because it literally was the first thing that came into my mind as soon as I woke up in the morning. So that was kind of cool. And it probably doesn't qualify as a dream. But anyway, questions were posed to Creator about the idea that a person can contact their higher self via hypnosis. I think I was investigating this with some a priori assumptions that made the answer very incomplete. So I made some assumptions about the whole idea of hypnosis and the higher self when I asked the question, and then we found out more later. But here's the first answer to the question about a popular YouTuber who does regressions where the subjects are apparently connecting to their higher selves while hypnotized. And I'm not going to be able to put this on the article that will be on Get Wisdom, but I'm going to read it here. Are the regression sessions with her subject protected, such that her subject's higher selves are heard, or are they mostly casualties to interference by imposters? And then this is the answer that we got. Unfortunately, her sessions are engaged with imposters, so the information cannot be taken at face value. This is a good example of how the extraterrestrial alliance and the psychics who implement the hand-holding of the spiritual community adapt themselves to each new advent. So the channelers moving into new areas will be met by extraterrestrial psychics who are up to speed, so to speak, will have studied the issue under exploration, and will understand fully the intention of the psychics and the type of information they wish to garner. This will keep up the subterfuge. So the point of distinction will be easiest to see when the end result desired is one of healing. This they will not replicate and do not wish to do. So those seeking merely information will always get information, but it will likely not be authentic. It may be true in some respects, because this as well is part of the strategy not to ignore reality and dismiss the desires of the questioner, but to play along and create a kind of game where they are mirroring the desires of the channeler and the subject in the case of a client to see what they can get away with, in providing interesting, seemingly appropriate, but in the final analysis unhelpful information that will not bring great change or benefit. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But the plot thickens. Okay, so there's more about this that comes up. So there's actually much more to the story that was missed, an important factor that was not brought up in the answer because it was not asked. Carl missed this too until recently. This concerns the actual mechanics of hypnosis and the ability of someone who's hypnotized to actually connect with their higher selves. I was hoping to be able to read from a recent transcript about this, but I don't have it in hand. So suffice to say for now that hypnosis is not a means where the higher self can be accessed. In a separate channeling, Carl learned that the gap is too great. We've been cut off from our higher selves and also our subconscious selves. And my understanding is that this was done through genetic manipulation by the Anunnaki on humans thousands of years ago. Perhaps there are individuals who can contact their higher selves by some means, but they are probably very few and far between, and most likely are not public with that fact due to the targeting that they would receive. Although I must admit that I'm impressed with the apparent protection one can receive by using the protection prayer and through the use of the Lightworker Healing Protocol. There's more to come about this, and what is exciting is that there's also many questions like this one that have been transcribed and now reside on the Get Wisdom's website. So if you're planning to be a supporter on that site, you'll have access to all of it. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to do before we close, let's see how we're doing on time here. Yeah, it's 20 minutes, so this will be okay. We'll probably be under it. We'll probably be right around half an hour, so that's okay. So I wanted to go through the channeling subjects that we have lined up so far, because I don't think I've updated that for a while, and it's kind of in flux. Sometimes we change them around depending on what's going on, but it's a huge list. I could easily flesh it out, take us well into 2019, no problem, because we're only doing one a week now, so the time goes by fast. So Tuesday on the 10th, we're going to do Martin Luther King. The following Tuesday on April 17th, we're going to do Jeffrey Dahmer. On the 24th of April, we're going to do Isaac Asimov. And then on May 1st, it's going to be Kurt Cobain. On May 8th, it's going to be Kanika Jenkins. That's still to be determined. On May 15th, it's going to be Barry Seal. And on May 22nd, it's going to be Salvador Allende. And then on the 29th, it's going to be Prince, also known as Prince Rogers Nelson. And then on June 5th, it's going to be Medgar Evers. And then on June 12th, it's going to be Pol Pot. And then on the 19th of June, it's going to be Buckminster Fuller. And then on the 26th, it'll be Edward Lansdale. And then on July 3rd, right before July 4th, Gandhi. We're going to do Gandhi. On the 10th of July, we're going to do Nikola Tesla. And then on the 17th of July, it'll be William Guy Bannister. And then July 24th, it'll be Walter Boart, who wrote one of the one of the leading and earliest books on mind control. And very well written book that really kind of broke the ice in a lot of ways around the public learning about mind control. And then on the 31st of July, it's going to be Ariella Louise Jones, who wrote the Telos books about Mount Shasta. And then on August 7th, it'll be Jim Mars. And then on the August 14th, it'll be Carol Quigley, who wrote the book, the epic book, the huge thick book called Tragedy and Hope. He was kind of like a spilled the beans on a lot of the Illuminati stuff, or the the upper echelons of control on Earth. It's quite a book. So this is the tentative schedule. I think probably what we're going to do is delay some of these so we can slip in a couple more viewer questions for Creator. Those are very popular, and we have a backlog of questions on that, so we have to keep up on that. So about 30 people were trained in Carl Mollison's Lightworker Healing Protocol in the early part of this past February, and my wife Jen and I were also trained. So I've been doing the protocol, which for my purposes could be called practice, and I usually do them early in the morning. So I'm not soliciting or attempting to get feedback. I'm just practicing the protocol, which can be described as a high-level prayer request. And I've done about 16 of these sessions so far, and in most cases there are healings for small, especially people who aren't intuitives, or haven't really. I mean, I have my intuition, but it works in a way that I really haven't. In terms of healing, there's a huge disconnect there. So that's something that may or may not get resolved. It may not need to get resolved. But I lamented not being intuitive enough to get feedback during or after the sessions, and only after getting a direct explanation why the feedback is not needed did I continue the practice with that lack nagging me. So once it was explained to me, I finally got it, and I said, okay, I don't need to, be checking on everything to see if this worked or what happened here or whatever. It was interfering with the practice, really. So in two recent instances, I found out that the healing may have worked dramatically. So we just lost connection there. So you could do a healing on somebody, and they could come back the next day and go, oh, I feel great and everything. But there could have been a healer that worked on them a week ago, and that may have been what turned the corner for them, and your healing just, you know, polished up the edges or whatever, or it, you know. So I mean, you just have to be careful about, you know, your cause and effect, you know, claims. So that's all that. I just point that out. So anyway, but here's the two instances that kind of helped me with my confidence. I got a call from a friend and he was not doing so well. He was in fear and very agitated. He was contemplating leaving his hometown for safety reasons. So we made an appointment later in the evening when we could talk more. I mentioned that I would do a session for him, but I didn't tell him when I would do it. I usually do them early in the morning, and to ensure that there's no interruptions. That evening, though, I had the house to myself, and a couple hours before, he'd be calling me back. So I went ahead and did a session. When we talked later, he was completely changed. He was calm and speaking without agitation, and he told me he had not felt so good since he was in high school. He was assuming I had done this session, I think. I don't know what he thought, but of course I had done the session, and I was not expecting to get his feedback. I was not planning to say anything about the fact that I had done the session. And to be honest, I was very surprised, and of course my confidence has gone up a notch. And then the other surprise feedback came last night, and this is secondhand from a local and longtime channel supporter, and he called last night to ask me about one of his friends who's had a really rough go. We had spoken about him earlier in March, and we knew he needed our prayers. So on this call, the supporter asked me if I'd done a session for a mutual friend. I said no, I didn't remember doing one for him. But I wasn't sure about that. You know, I thought I had done one for a different friend of his. So I went back. I keep a little book, you know, where I keep a log of what I did and when I did it. And so just to be sure, I checked that log, and sure enough, I did do a session for both of them on March 21st. So during our call, the supporter told me that our mutual friend, had gone through a major change. He'd never seen this level of clarity in him before, and his speech was no longer delayed. He used to have, like, if you talked to him, he would kind of delay before he'd answer, and that was a real common feature of his communication. And so my friend said that's gone. He's never seen him like this before. And so here again, the feedback was out of my mind to such an extent that I had forgotten even doing this session. That's probably not a good thing, but it's really cool, you know, just to be able to do the Lightworker Healing Protocol and then just let it go. You know, if you get feedback, great. If you don't, that's okay. It's a high-level prayer request. You're not getting into someone's energy. You're letting the divine realm do the heavy lifting for you. So if anybody has an interest in that, and they're not intuitive or psychic or whatever, or even consider themselves a healer, you should really look into the Lightworker Healing Protocol. And module 1, the video, is just about done. Carl and I are working on the final edits. The manual is ready. We're going to have that ready to ship at the end of the month, and you'll be able to watch the first module, which is going to be between 2 and 3 hours long, which goes along with the manual. I'm not sure how many modules we'll have, but that's part of the online version of the course. The key thing is to get the manual and read it first, because everything's in the manual. Okay, so anyway, the results is that my confidence in this practice has gone up 2 full notches, yay! And I'm really looking forward to doing more of these. They take about a half an hour, and I usually do them in the morning. And my plan is for my practice on getting more proficient is to do 50 of these sessions, and then I'll decide whether, you know, it's something I want to, you know, put on my website or offer as a service or whatever like that. But anyway, it's pretty impressive stuff from my experience so far. Really excited about the map forum. It's a beautiful Sunday. I think we're up about a half an hour here, so I'm gonna take off. And I want to thank everybody for their support on GoFundMe. Why Is This True? It's really helping. I want to give a thanks to Ray, to David B, to Joanne B, to Michael W, and also to Carol C. I really appreciate you guys helping me out. If you like the videos and you like my work, and you want to help me to continue to do this full time, please go to gofundme.com/Why Is This True with a dash between each word and make a donation. I really would appreciate it. And have a great Sunday. Many blessings. Thank you. Bye-bye.